What if I told you that for thousands of years we were not alone, eh? That another human species, powerful, intelligent, and masters of a frozen continent, walked the earth beside us, aye? They were not the brutes of our cartoons, aye, but a people of profound complexity who ruled for over 300,000 years, only to vanish from the world as if ghosts of the ice, aye? This is the story of their epic rise, their mysterious fall, and the stunning revelation that they never truly left us. Our story begins not with a bang, but with a slow, steady adaptation to one of the harshest periods in Earth's history. This was the Pleistocene, the Great Ice Age, and for hundreds of millennia, it was the undisputed kingdom of the Neanderthals. Their journey starts over 500,000 years ago. With a common ancestor we share, likely a species known as Homo heidelbergensis. While one branch of this family stayed in Africa to eventually become us, Homo sapiens, another pushed north into the unforgiving wilderness of Eurasia. There, in a crucible of ice and hardship, they were forged into something new. First identified from bones found in Germany's Neanderthal Valley in 1856. They were immediately cast as our brutish, stooped ancestors, a convenient but deeply flawed caricature. This was the ultimate prehistoric slander, a fiction that has taken over a century and a mountain of evidence to correct. The truth is, Homo neanderthalensis was a staggering evolutionary success, a species perfectly honed for its time and place. Their bodies were a masterclass in survival. They were shorter and immensely stockier than us, a powerful build that conserved precious heat in the biting cold of Ice Age Europe. Their barrel chests housed enormous lungs, fueling a physique that possessed incredible strength. A conic brow ridge wasn't a sign of primitivism, but likely a structural reinforcement for powerful chewing, while their large noses warmed and humidified frigid air before it hit their lungs. And then there was the brain. Their skulls reveal a cranial capacity that was, on average, even larger than our own today, reaching up to 1,600 cubic centimeters. The question wasn't if they were intelligent, but how that incredible mind worked. For centuries, their genius was expressed in stone. They pioneered and perfected a sophisticated technology known as the Mousterian tool industry, a quantum leap from the simple hand axes that came before. The heart of this technology was the Levallois technique, a complex process that reveals a mind capable of abstract thought and meticulous planning. They would first have to envision the final tool hidden inside a block of flint. Then prepare the core with a series of precise strikes before detaching the finished flake with a single, decisive blow. These weren't just sharp rocks. They were custom-made spearheads, scrapers, knives, and points, a versatile toolkit for a dangerous world. This was a skill passed down through generations, a testament to their ability to learn, teach, and think ahead. Armed with this technology, they became the apex predators of their world. Neanderthals didn't just scavenge. They were formidable, strategic hunters, capable of taking down the titans of the Ice Age. Fossil evidence shows they systematically hunted woolly rhinos, giant deer, wild boar, and even the colossal mammoths that roamed the plains. This was a life of extreme danger, a daily dance with death that is etched into their very bones. Analysis of their remains reveals a pattern of fractures and severe injuries remarkably similar to modern-day rodeo riders. This suggests a hunting style that was anything but cowardly, requiring them to get dangerously close, thrusting with heavy stone-tipped spears. Yet, they were not just carnivores. Chemical analysis of their dental plaque reveals a surprisingly varied diet, including cooked barley, legumes, and dates, proving they expertly exploited the plant resources around them. In coastal sites around Gibraltar, we found evidence they also harvested mussels, seals, and other marine life. They were adaptable omnivores, masters of every resource their territory had to offer. But it is in their quietest moments that we find their deepest humanity. In the Shatter cave in modern-day Iraq, archaeologists unearthed the remains of an individual who had been deliberately buried, a discovery that shook the foundations of anthropology. Analysis of the soil around the skeleton revealed clumps of ancient pollen, suggesting he was laid to rest on a bed of wildflowers. While the flower burial is still debated, the simple act of interment itself speaks volumes, suggesting a belief system, a ritual for the dead. We also find undeniable evidence of profound compassion. The skeleton known as Shanidar I, or Nandi, belonged to a man who survived 4 years after suffering a crushing blow to his head that would have partially blinded him, a withered arm, and severe arthritis. He could not have hunted or kept up with the group on his own. He was cared for, fed, and protected by his kin, a profound act of empathy that reveals a society bound by social obligation, a trait we so often reserve only for ourselves. And for decades, we believed we were the sole inventors of art. But in Spain, caves like La Pasiga, Maltravieso, and Ardales, researchers have found abstract art ladders, dots, and hand stencils painted in red ochre. These paintings have been dated to 65,000 years ago, a full 20,000 years before. Homo sapiens are thought to have arrived in the region. The only artists who could have made them were Neanderthals. This is the dawn of symbolic thought, the desire to mark one's world and express an inner reality. This is complemented by discoveries of eagle talons worn as jewelry and perforated seashells painted with pigments, showing a clear appreciation for aesthetics and personal adornment. For over 300,000 years, this was their world. They survived countless ice ages, adapted, and thrived in a world we can barely imagine. They were the original inhabitants of Europe, the undisputed kings of the primordial continent. And then, everything changed. Around 45,000 years ago, a new kind of human began to push out of Africa and the Middle East, spreading into the Neanderthals' ancestral lands. These newcomers were us, Homo sapiens. The stage was now set for one of the most fascinating and consequential encounters in all of human history. Two intelligent human species, separated by 500,000 years of evolution, were about to meet and compete for the same world. For a long time, the prevailing theory was one of violent conquest. Our ancestors, supposedly smarter and better equipped with projectile weapons, simply wiped out their brutish cousins in a prehistoric genocide. But the archaeological record doesn't support a massive, continent-spanning war. Instead, it points to something far more complex, a long period of overlap, of coexistence that lasted for up to 5,000 years in some regions. So what happened during those thousands of years of shared territory? They competed for the same caves, the same herds of bison, the same precious resources in a land where winter could mean starvation. It wasn't a war, but a slow, grinding competition. And Homo sapiens appears to have had a few subtle, but ultimately critical, advantages. Our social networks seem to have been larger and more widespread. While Neanderthals lived in smaller, more isolated family groups, we were building extensive trade and communication lines, allowing for the exchange of goods and information over vast distances. This meant that when one group of sapiens developed a new innovation, like the spear thrower or the bone needle for sewing fitted clothing, that idea could spread like wildfire across the population, creating a collective, compounding advantage. The climate itself became a formidable enemy. The relatively stable cold of the Ice Age gave way to a period of wild, rapid, and violent climate swings, known as Dansgaard-Doshgar events. Forests could spring up where frozen steppe had been for millennia, and then vanish again in just a few generations. For the Neanderthals, so superbly specialized for a particular environment, this chaotic new world would have been a devastating challenge to their way of life. Then there was the simple, brutal pressure of numbers. Some evidence suggests that Homo sapiens had a higher fertility rate and a shorter interval between births, allowing our population to grow more rapidly. Even a small demographic advantage, compounded over thousands of years, is an unstoppable force. The Neanderthals may have simply been outcompeted, their territories slowly but surely shrinking as the wave of newcomers expanded. But the most incredible evidence of their interaction wasn't dug from the earth. It was found locked away inside our own cells in the human genome. In 2010, scientists at the Max Planck Institute completed a draft of the Neanderthal genome, and the result was earth-shattering. They found that all modern non-African humans today carry between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA. The proof was undeniable. Our ancestors didn't just meet the Neanderthals. They had children with them. We are their descendants in a very real and measurable way. This discovery changed everything. The story was no longer about simple replacement. It was a far more intimate story of interaction, competition, and assimilation. Their DNA contributed to our own survival, providing us with genes related to our immune system, helping us fight off diseases native to Europe. Other genes influence our skin's reaction to ultraviolet light and even our susceptibility to certain modern diseases. But this interbreeding also helps solve the mystery of their disappearance. As the much larger sapiens population expanded, the smaller Neanderthal groups didn't just die out, they were slowly swallowed. Through generations of interbreeding, their unique genetic signature was diluted into our own, their rivers of DNA flowing into our vast ocean. They were bred out of existence, not just forced out. By 40,000 years ago, their time was over. From the shores of the Atlantic to the mountains of the Altai, the last Neanderthals vanished, leaving behind only their bones, their tools, and their genetic ghosts. Their 300,000-year reign had come to an end. The world, for the first time in eons, had only one species of human left on its surface. So, how do we remember the Neanderthals? For too long, we saw them as a failure, a brutish dead end on the evolutionary tree. But the story of Primordial Tales is one of truth, and the truth is far more incredible. They were not failures. They were apex survivors who dominated a continent for a length of time that makes our own. Civilization looked like a fleeting moment. They were not simple brutes. We were intelligent toolmakers, mighty hunters, and a compassionate people who buried their dead and cared for their weak. And in the end, they did not truly fall. Their legacy is written into the DNA of billions of people alive today, a silent reminder of a time when we were not alone. The Neanderthals are a part of our own primordial tale. Their blood runs in our veins, and their ghosts walk with us forever.